5:30. I will call the meeting to order. This is the June meeting, it's Public Library District Board of Directors. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, people online. We have no one. Okay.
When I said it to you, you may just hear
Okay, great.
it. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Our first item on the agenda is the consent agenda, which consists of the meeting minutes from May 15th and the budget board meeting minutes. There are district disbursements for the month. We'll have a chance to review those. Any additions, corrections, questions? I would entertain a motion for approval.
I move to approve the May 15th board meeting minutes and budget hearing minutes in district disbursements. Don't have
How
to,
about,
sorry, I don't know where my
approve
little.
the consent agenda?
Yeah.
Okay,
There he is.
sorry, I didn't have the red line version.
Okay.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
All right. Any seconds?
Unless, you don't have to do roll call.
Oh, sorry.
So, next,
Do I abstain since I was not here for both meetings?
no, you don't have.
Then I approve the minutes.
Malcolm,
Yes.
Trimble,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
and Brown.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's, the meeting with roll calls.
Okay. Next up is public comments, and I do not see any members of the public here. Okay, so we'll extend for that.
Where you help yourselves.
Yeah. There's lots. And now we will open the public hearing to receive comments on the 2025-2026 fiscal year budget as submitted by the budget committee. And it doesn't appear there is anyone here to comment on that either. So I will close the public hearing. So now we have before us resolution number 23, which is the adoption of the 2025-2026 budget. Todd, is there anything, any comments you'd like to make?
No, first of all, nothing has changed from our budget committee meeting. So see from the resolution, it gathers together all of the funds into one document. It also proposes the tax rate and the debt service for the general obligation bonds. And, that's it. With this, we would be officially adopting.
I did have one question, on the resolution, adopting the budget. The reserve is at 0. And so I was wondering about that.
Because this, good question. This lists everything that we're planning to spend. And in the budget, we have not planned to spend anything in the reserve. So we actually have about $2 million in reserve that you're not authorizing any spending. That's free. You gave me a moment of panic.
That's a good point. Any other astute questions? Non-astute questions. Okay, if not, I would entertain a motion.
I move to adopt resolution 22. Sometimes it should be.
That's a typo.
Oh,
Oh, it's.
yes, I copied it from last year.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
So it's resolution.
I move to adopt resolution 23.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Passes unanimously. We have a budget for this. Okay, now we have our bond updates, which is the bulk. It's the Greg show.
figured I'd have to give you something to think about and remember by. You know, as far as on our report schedule is moving right along, I'm not really seeing any changes to our schedule overall. We've done a lot of work sessions and planning sessions that have been going on the past couple of months to really prepare for what's gonna happen after the new year. When we finish construction on Central and we start moving in and bidding it out, filling it up and moving all the staff in. Moving all the staff is one of the big challenges on most occasions, so. But it's progressing really well. Those planning sessions are really, I think, helping everybody in the organization to think about, okay, how do we move all these people, keep them working, keep the district running while we go through that transition, so. Schedule wise, not seeing, like I said, any changes or expecting any issues at this point. With Central being, you know, the biggest thing going on, Kirby's done an updated construction schedule for us. To bring it up to current where they're at, to project where they'll finish, and so that is staying consistent with our master development schedule and our plan there. And one slight adjustment we made is when we installed the sculpture that John Grotti's doing, and we're just pushing it to the end of December. We put up the scaffold system and then have him put up his sculpture in early January, which is inside the lobby, so it still lets us be putting furniture and shelving and early learning, all the other stuff, and in the other parts of the building. You build a big building, you actually have a lot of space to do a lot of stuff, so that's what's going on schedule wise. As you can see in the budget, there's a number of changes there, you know, over the overall budget funding sources increase. And that was due to an update on the earnings of the investment as we go, and it's continuing to generate those added dollars. And so, you know, it went up a little over 700,000. And so that increased there. Throughout it, I went back through over the last couple of months and really looked at where are we at with all of the project costs on the different projects, and really to reassess and make adjustments. And so in the general administrative, which is where our contract is as owner's representative, one of the things we looked at is how managing and contracting services with the moving company. We are currently managing that vendor, and I talked about bringing them in underneath our contract directly. And that way it allows us to have more control over the moving vendor and management of them, which we are already doing. They were kind of just operating on directly with DPL, but we felt this is going to be a better approach. So we moved funds out of the project budget. So it came out of the central budget and moved over, and that was a $300,000 adjustment. We don't have the actual cost yet. I just used that as a budget number. And then once we finalize planning on how we're gonna do all the moves, we'll have an updated proposal from them, and then we'll come in with a board authorization for actually expending those and executing contracts and stuff. So that was the change in the general administrative in the work package one central libraries. There was a number of changes. One, the budget there went down by the 300,000 we transferred. But then we also allocated some of the contingency, project contingency out to line items, and the big change went into the owner FF&E costs, and that was about 686,000. It two main components. One was shelving systems, and that was 486,000. So a significant change, and there's two main components of the change. One is, you know, we have our raised access floor in the building with all of our mechanical, electrical, and everything underneath the floor. City of Bend came back and said, hey, code says you have to have this many inches around the service points of the equipment underneath. And while you have removable floor and you can get at it, you've got shelving sitting on some of that that's encroaching into that space. And so if you can imagine how much shelving we have all over, it was hitting in a lot of spots. And so we looked at a variety of ways of how do we solve this. And what we ended up doing was modifying the shelving to meet that requirement. It also served another purpose, is we increased the amount of shelving that is now mobile, which allows it to be moved. So any future, and we've had a lot of mobile, but we now have more. And he went through and reorganized the shapes of some of them to move it. And sometimes we were literally having to move it 6 inches, but it changed the whole layout for a whole screen. So that was one big component. The other big component was the finish on the woodwork. So, all of the shelving has a wood cap on the top, on the ends and stuff. And one of the things we were experiencing at the other libraries is the durability of the finish, is that as the patrons were touching it, doing things, putting stuff on it, it was more susceptible to scratches and damage than we had expected. And so we went back and said, okay, let's figure out another way to get to a more durable finish that one will last longer and be more resistant to that kind of damage. And we ended up finding one that we're happy with, and it's now being used in also all of our millwork. But it ended up being a 7-step process to do it. So it's just multiple coats and layers to increase the durability. And I would say the team put it through the tests, pouring out everything imaginable that somebody could use to mark it, push it, scratch it, and went through a lot of rounds of getting it. So, it's a fairly sizable cost out of that, chunk. But, when you spread it across everything, it's just a volume of shelving. So I think in the long run, there's gonna be less repair work over time, and it's just gonna look better, last longer, and hopefully maintain better because it's less susceptible. The other change for the FF&E was in the ITAV equipment budget. And that is, we looked at all the costs that we expended on Redmond for IT equipment throughout, and just felt that the budget we established was low relative to what we were having to do. And to really get it set up, when we looked at, while we have this many people moving in here and getting it properly set up, new equipment and stuff, felt that was low, so bump that budget up. And so that was 200,000 out of the 686. 486 was shelving systems, and that was the two main components of changing types and shapes and mobility, and then the finish on that. So that was a big increase, and that came funded out of the project contingency. So it didn't increase the budget, but it utilized some of the contingency funds. On work package 3, which is downtown Bend Library, the budget didn't change. We did get our GMP in. We'll go through the authorization on that, but that was pleasantly under budget. See, I reduced the construction budget by about 455,000. And so there's some savings there. Our owner FF&E costs increased by 150,000. And it was two areas when I looked at how we were finalizing Redmond costs and how we were setting up downtown Bend, because they're so similar. So it was light by about 75,000 on IT, and then also on our early learning components. And so, I bumped each of those by 75,000 and increased the budget, just looking at that, expecting that, hey, we're gonna spend at a similar level once we get there. In the soft costs, it increased by 600,000. There's three different changes that were primary changes there. One is we actually reduced some permit and fee costs because we got an accurate estimate of what those were from the city and updated based on our plan submittal. Increased the builder's risk policy budget. And that was just in discussions with Brown and Brown, our broker, about what's going on and what we should anticipate. They felt that, and we might be on the light side, they said it's probably possible, but they take a more conservative approach. Felt that was a little low, so I put a little bit of money in there. The larger one that was in there was costs for Miller Hall, the architectural fees. So one of the things, when we purchased their original contract 4 years ago, we based it on a schedule and a sequence of work that we were planning back then. And we've never really adjusted this component of their contract. And we've changed our strategy a fair amount. You know, we're awarding the GMP to Kirby now for construction, but we don't start work until next April. And the reason is we want to start all of the subcontractor purchasing, do all of their shop drawings and submittals, and have them order all of the materials. If you remember, we increased the scope of work by adding in that we were changing out a lot of the electrical system and switchgear, and same with all of the mechanical system and that. And so we're actually working for about 9 months here to prepare for that. And the idea is to have as much of the materials on hand, so when we close, we can get through construction as swiftly as we can. Well, that's changing how we need Miller Hull and steel architects to engage in it. So there's no action tonight because we haven't agreed on a final cost. But I've adjusted the budget to put in additional dollars into our architectural line item, and then we'll come back with a formal authorization. I would think in 1 to 2 months, either July, but most likely August meeting. We'll have it finalized. We're working through with steel and Miller Hull on what their role is going to be, how it's changed from when we originally contracted for that. So that's the change that happened in the budget. And the net to the contingency was a 300 change reduction. One, because there were some savings in construction, there was some saving in permits and fees that helped to offset some of those adds, so that it didn't all come out of contingency. On Redmond, I re-looked at our construction budget. We actually increased the budget back up. I think in the last couple of months, I brought it down and I'm still a little too aggressive on that. And so as we're going through, there's some things that we have Kirby working on and helping us with. There was a condition that the city had for us. It was a note in a plan about putting in a street light, so we captured that, and we're capturing, you know, we're doing that street work and some of those, but I can just see the estimated cost of the things that we're asking them to do to, you know, kind of fine tune the building and make some adjustments. We're adding up. So I wanted to increase that, and there's also an authorization for that work with Kirby. That was the biggest thing. You know, there were some small costs, a little bit of civil engineering costs. Most of it was increased construction hard costs. And then there was a little bit of savings in soft costs for some utility fees that we just didn't have to pay. So the contingency was slightly reduced there. And then part of it was just the increase in the budget. On work package 4, there was no changes, that remained as is. And not that we didn't look at it, and just not seeing anything. We did an adjustment, you know, not too long ago, and so everything was good there. The reserve contingency, it increased by 615,000. You know, we had the increase in our funding of 715, but we took 100 and moved it to Redmond. So that part of the contingency went up. Overall, the contingency Came down slightly, we're just over 17 million last month and we're at 16,000,007. We're still at 7.3% of the budget, so still a little comfortable that we've got ample contingencies across all the projects as well as our reserve to deal with anything that comes up, that may come up. We're actually in really good shape at this point in the overall bond program, so. Those were the changes to the budget. From procurement and contracts, that's really the authorizations we'll go through tonight. Insurance wise, no real changes, everything's moving along, no claims of that nature. On design and construction, for the most part, Central is all about executing the work at this point. We finalized, released almost all of our orders. We're working through some fabric issues on a few furniture pieces, but nothing real major. Our production is going well with our shelving, with furniture, with our early learning. They're all in production and moving along and targeted to have their stuff done, completed, and ready for the move-in next January. So feeling really good about that. Work in place, as far as quality of the work, what they're doing and everything, the engagement with all of our consultants, our inspectors and everything has been really good. So real happy with Kirby's performance out there on Central. On Redmond and also the branches, it's really primarily just wrap up of warranty, follow up on those issues, and then any additional work that we're asking them to do. But Sun River, remember, we were doing the sewer, and that is actually worked out really well. They cameraed the sewer, and I don't remember if we told you this last month or not, but we went a little further than we thought because they got in there and they found another bad spot, but they were able to extend the removals and get in there and fix that part of the line. And with Robert's help of using attic stock for the tile flooring, because they hadn't ordered enough, and to order additional, it was gonna come in later. They had exactly the number of pieces.
Oh,
It was like, luck was on our side, right? And so we're gonna replace the district's attic stock materials for any future repairs, but it definitely worked out. So that's been moving along pretty well, and I think they're on pace to get that wrapped up. It's actually not sure exactly where it's at, but doing well. So that was really kind of it on the report. Questions?
I wanted to ask you about Redmond. I know the place where you go out of the parking lot where you bought so many cars bottom down. Does this include that? You said the light, but.
It does.
Yeah.
It includes all of that, redo that. They're working on getting that work scheduled. We kind of held off a little bit, when the street light came up to see, at one point we thought we were gonna have to trench across the street, to get power for the light. That got solved where we didn't. Yes, that's included in being scheduled.
I have a question. I'm sure you've explained this before, and I apologize because from meeting to meeting, sometimes I
Yeah.
forget like all the things that have happened. But it seems like there have been a number of things like the toys, or then you were talking about the shelving finish that have just kind of through the months. We realized, oh, that's not designed the way we need it to be, or it's not functioning the way we want it to be, or we imagined. So are we doing like new, innovative, experimental type things that kind of done, been tested or done before? Like I would just think that, I don't know, shelving would be like whatever we need it to be when we put the shelving finish on. But I don't know anything about
Right.
that kind of stuff. So what is it about our spaces or our process or the vendor that is making some of these things come up and we're having to adjust for them?
Yeah. I think some of it is, it's not like innovative,
Yeah,
but it is different. If you think about like the shelving,
yeah,
traditional is a long straight line, very linear. And we're definitely trying different shapes and different things and sizes. And so some of that is a bit of a learning curve of, is it working the way is expected? That once it's in place, can people circulate, can they get to the material? And so that's the kind of the shape issue. The finish, do have like standard finishes that you can use in certain types of materials. We chose a material that we thought is a very durable type of plywood, you know, and if you remember seeing the edges and where it's exposed and stuff. I think the type of finish that we put on it, something that the architects anticipating that it is gonna be durable, and in reality, it's not. So I don't think we're trying something really unique,
yeah.
but something that what we used really didn't meet the needs. I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, I'm just, I don't really do this kind of work data.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, is the durability because the shelves are configured in a non-traditional manner? Or is the durability a factor because you know, in an office setting where maybe you have one person accessing shelves, maybe 3 or 4 times a day versus hundreds of people all day long.
Yeah.
So the amount of use of the
I think
finishes
it's
is
a lot about the volume of use. And Lynn will tell all of us, look, you'll be shocked and amazed at what these people will do. Everybody's, yeah, we hear you, Lynn.
I'm shocked and amazed.
See the-
Just had to get up now. But I mean, it was watching that, I say, here comes Lynn and. This is the confident happening.
Tested in middle school.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think that's a real thing that, the amount of use is high. In the library, much more than you would think. I never envisioned it. I just said, oh, everybody walks around real quiet.
No.
It's not the reality.
So I'm the line supervisor and we have children's chairs that all now have key rubs from adults deciding that that was the perfect height of chair for them to sit in. And so the finish, that was one of the finish things is that we didn't expect adult keys to rub on the children's chairs.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So my question was, I mean, I love the fact that because these projects are staggered, we get to learn as we go and each library builds upon the learnings of the last one. So that's good news. But, so when we see durability issues like this, and I know that they probably do these treatments before the units are assembled. So is there any way to go back and improve what's that already been installed, say in Redmond and
You know,
in smaller branches?
some of the furniture, we have a person they're called the furniture medic. That's his company's name, and he refinishes furniture, and so he's gone in trying to repair stuff. We've been looking at trying to do that, to do it wholesale on all of the shelving when you take like all of the Redmond or.
Right, I mean, it's huge, yeah.
I don't know that we're venturing down that, but that may be one of those things. It's much harder to do.
After the fact.
The new process, when I talk about the 7 coats, which is a really high build, because if you think sometimes you just put 1 coat of stain and it's done, and this is, you'd be closing the libraries for an extended period.
Yeah.
One, the smell, nobody,
Well, right,
there, but
yeah.
the workers with masks and respirators.
Right.
And so I think it'll be hard to do it. We will apply it to definitely central and downtown. I think it's gonna be a bit more repair work on the others in the long term.
Okay.
And when we do have those repairs, is that something we can use the remaining bond dollars for that we have left at the end?
To a certain extent, as we're going through and updating those things. But there's a point where the bond dollars, the bond ends, and then general normal maintenance and care of the building is part of the operating costs.
Right.
You know, I think that, and we've had discussions with bond council of how we can utilize the funds as we see a problem on something that we've done, but, you know, as long as we're still within, the bond is still open and we can correct something, or perform work that improves and delivers based on the bond language.
Right,
And they've said that it's allowable to use those.
yeah,
So-
cause I would want to see what we could do to
Right.
bring everything up. Because I mean, we're building these buildings for
Yeah.
decades into the future and we want things to hold up and to look good.
Yeah.
And I
50
think
years.
there's a difference between normal wear and tear and something that maybe wasn't quite needed.
Yeah.
At
Yeah.
the beginning.
Can I just add to, I think that really, it's a public building, and you think about our public buildings, the library is the one building that is so public, we get so many people.
Oh, yeah,
And people just choose to use things the way they want to use them, and there's, you know, and that's great. That we are a library that, you know, lets people be who they want to be in these buildings, so I think that's kind of the takeaway also is that if we're gonna do these innovative things, we have to live with a little discomfort. And believe me, it's so hard for me. I cringe as soon as I see somebody stick your foot up on a chair or sit cross-legged or bring in a soda and drop it right on the front floor. But again, I think that's just part of, if we wanna be innovative, we wanna be inviting and welcoming.
right.
This is kind of the other side of the coin that we just have to embrace it.
It's like inviting the whole community into your home.
One thing that really helped was, and I think Lynn finally broke through with the architects, is stop thinking about it as a library and think about it as an airport.
Oh, that's a,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
The kind
great.
of usage we get.
Yeah, no, that's perfect.
Sort of changes the mindset.
Yes.
Because of the amount of travel.
And look, if we have bacon bookmarks, we can have almost anything. And I had another question, as we go forward on the figure plant designs.
Yeah.
Are they, I mean, I know before they began work, there was a lot of discussion and a lot of planning that went into what was selected and what types of units they were designing. And is any of that carrying forward into the new buildings? I mean, will there be repeat units in the newer buildings? And or how much are they continuing to design different pieces for the new buildings? I mean, I know they're larger, so.
There's, so a lot of the, like all the carts, you see right in here. Some of them are the same carts, the ones that are real popular, but then some are different. And, you know, we was talking about they could be interchanged and moved from branch to branch, to give different experiences.
Right,
And so, as they've designed them, they've helped create new ones as well as some things that are repetitive.
okay,
There are some things that are all repetitive, the landforms, the shapes.
right,
And those, and we've actually seen where we've reduced quantities in the later because we may have access at one branch and it's just as easy to pick it up and carry it over to the other branch.
mhm,
There's some components that are unique and it's the, you know, like at Redmond play structure.
mhm,
And all of those components will have that again at Central with that really large play structure. So there are different play structures, each location.
mhm,
And so those are unique.
mhm.
I think about downtown Bend, we put a fishing pole in there. It's not one that can move, but it's something that's very different.
Mine is the water.
Yes, no water. Yeah,
What is the fish?
but it,
Just sit and wait.
so, you
Okay,
know, I think it's a bit of both. They continue to expand what can be multi-site and then
Mhm.
what is unique to each library.
okay, thank you. Any other questions for Greg? Okay, we can go into the different summaries now.
So the First one, just going down the list.
Mhm,
It's okay. Is the GMP for Kirby Nagel Route on our downtown bin. And, so in the summary of what that final cost was, we went out to subcontractor bidding on that. We had really good results from our bidding. One, a lot of activity from the subcontractors. We had a lot of bids, which was really good, a lot of good coverage, a lot of good subcontractors. Couple months ago, I increased the budget there, the last time I did a budget adjustment, I think in February, because I was worried about the inflation and the tariffs. And as we went through the results of the bidding and everything, Kirby was sharing with us that they're seeing, kind of the tariffs are not driving up costs. And so they didn't see any impact in that, but also that the impacts of inflation are just softening. And that they're seeing costs somewhat stabilized. It's not going up, it's not dropping, probably won't. But the other was that the amount of subcontractors that turned in bids for the project was really high, which means they're looking for work. And so I think that's what really drove our costs to come in under budget. I think the GMP, they really get good bid coverage in that, but they also plan for, hey, what are the unforeseens? What should we be prepared to deal with when we start tearing apart the building? And, in renovations, you find everything. And we found that in all of the branches. Every time we opened them up, we found a variety of things. So I think they've done a good job of planning for that as well within the numbers that they gave us. And it's all open book. Kirby's really good at showing us everything and saying, we're putting this money here and this money here in each trade of why. Here was the bids. They showed us every bid, showed us all the analysis they'd done, and then any budgets they were carrying for. Here's where we think there could be a risk of potential cost change. And so we were real happy with them. They do the summary and very much like the last one. So how they got to their numbers. And this is where we'll release them with your authorization to move forward with the GMP and start buying subcontracts and really going through the next 9 months of planning to execute the work with a goal of really getting through that and getting the library back open as quickly as possible. So, any questions on that?
This is kind of a minor question, but do the types of subs that bid on this type of job, do they normally just bid large commercial structures, or are they also in the home market as well, or does it vary?
I would say most of them are primarily commercial contractors, subcontractors. They'll work on the larger multi-family type projects that you see. Not too many of them are in the single family.
Right, okay. Yeah, I just assumed that was probably the case in that, so demand kind of ebbs and flows based on what else is being built in the region.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, we even saw where, we had a real strong turnout of all our local subcontractors, but we also received bids from subcontractors coming from the valley over.
Oh.
And that they weren't always competitive, but they were outpricing it and looking at whether they're coming over from Portland. We always get a lot of Portland contractors, but we noticed a few others from whether it was Eugene and Springfield or Salem area that we got bids from that we hadn't in the past.
Right, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought it was interesting too. You hear GMP all the time, but that it's a guaranteed maximum price, and how can they put that on that in this day and time?
So that is a name that is affixed in the contract forms that we use. While it's actually, we've done pretty well with maintaining that. So in there, in order to do that, they carry a contingency, which we agreed to.
Mhm.
And it's identified as a line item, it's in the budget right there. They also look at what are those budget numbers that they need to anticipate, because what we're saying is, look, guys, tell us what it's gonna cost us at the end of the day, not just what is exactly drawn. So, you know, when you hard bid a project, competitively bid a project, instead of the method we use, the CMGC, contractors price exactly what's drawn. Whether it's right or wrong, that's what you get. And sometimes they know right away, yeah, well, that's gonna be a change order, that's gonna be a change order. That's gonna be a change order,
That's
but
messed up.
we're competing, so we only price what exactly drawn, whether it's right or wrong.
Yeah.
And so by being engaged with us early on, and it's, you know, we went through the, why we use the CMGC method early with the board and to secure approval of that method. And this was part of it, is that the contractor gets involved, works with the architect on design, understands the plans, and when there's things that come up, it's like, guys, use your budget. I don't have a problem saying that to you, you know, that's why you're here. And, I will say both of our contractors were extremely good at using that, even when we ask for a change. They don't ask to increase that, because under the contract, it does allow them to increase that GMP for owner requested changes and for changes that were beyond their control or ability to anticipate. So if the city comes out and says, yeah, you got an approved plan, but you gotta change it. And they've done that to us on a number of things on Central. Where they came out and said, you gotta add fireproofing to this. Yeah, the plan checker missed it. You gotta do it. We're the authority with jurisdiction, so they get to tell us that. And with having budgets that are set up like this, gives them the ability to have dollars in there. At the end of the day, if they don't use those dollars, they all flow back to the library. You know, in Redmond, we used every dollar they had. We never increased it for all of our requested changes that they were allowed until we finally ran out of money. And that's when we've been adding small amounts. You know, and the same thing happened with SunWest on the branches. So it's how they can give that guaranteed maximum
Yeah.
price.
It's amazing.
Well, I think it saved us a bunch of money throughout, over the course of the project, and it's only fair that if we request changes, that we pay for those changes, and good contractors find ways to absorb those, and, you know, you may spend a little more on something and a little less on something else, but, yeah, I think both contractors have been really good to work with.
They have, and they, you know, the format we use, and so I sat with Kirby today because it was just our budget update, and we reviewed every number in their budget, every subcontract, where they're at, what are the change orders. One of our project managers who works on the central project, James, he goes through every change order, even though there's $0, right? They're not increasing, but when they spend money, we wanna know. What are you spending on? Why are you agreeing to that? To make sure that, and they're doing their due diligence, if a sub asks for something, is it justified? And then where they funding it out of, you know, and they show us, hey, here's where dollars that aren't committed are, and they're available to be used for owner requested changes or other issues, so. It is a good process when you can use the CMGC methodology.
And also you providing Todd the signing authority up to 16 million and such. But as I recall, there's like limits that we sort of parcel that out, or do you have the authority to sign a $16 million check?
I have the authority to sign. On the $69 check.
Okay. Wow.
Okay, any further questions or discussion? I would entertain a motion to approve this.
I move to provide the library director signing authority up to $16,210,861 for the downtown bed library GMP contract and change orders.
I will second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye, motion passes unanimously.
The next one is, again, Kirby, it's on Redmond, and this is the increase in their contract. And it's an increase in the authorization level of about 127,000. And it's for the added things that we're asking them to look at and consider. We just want to make sure that we've always stayed ahead. We haven't actually spent these dollars yet, of course, but the things that we're looking at and contemplating. Repair some we know we have to do, like the street pavement and the street line, others that we know we want to do, and some minor things around the property. So this brings that up. What I attached on the back is just a report of what Kirby gives us. Not to go through it in detail unless you have questions about it, but it's one of the documents that Kirby should uses to communicate with us what those anticipated, and there's a column there called ROM, R-O-M. And those are the things you can see 175,000 in that column. It's right in the middle of the spreadsheet. And those are the types of things that we're looking at having them do and work on, and including their costs associated with that. And so those are things that we're in the process of evaluating. There's a column there called pending costs. Those are things that we know we want to do, and we're planning them out, and we're finalizing costs, and then they work their way across until they're over, under, approved. But this is a report that we get every month from them, and it helps us to see where they at and where they in total on the project, so.
Any questions? Will you entertain a motion?
Sure. I move to provide the library director signing authority up to $31,776,780 for the KNCC Redmond Library construction contract, plus the original CMGC pre-construction services cost of $115,500 for a combined total of $31,892,280.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor? It passes unanimously. Okay.
The next one is, Miller Hall, so this is architectural fees and design services. And the spreadsheet is one that, behind the first two pages is a summary of their contract, and one that I'll try to use consistently as we adjust their contract. And right now, we're processing some change orders, so we have them, making these changes to design things that we request, whether it be shelving, signage, dealing with city issues or something that is outside of their contract. This is across the board on all of the projects and buildings because they're, master contract on it. And for the most part on, small stuff, found that it works out better just having them perform the work on an hourly basis. We have their labor rates all under contract for them and for all of their sub-consultants. Sometimes they'll give us a fixed fee proposal. And so this is capturing a lot of that hourly work that we authorized them to proceed, the last time we did a budget adjustment was, I wanna say in February, where we brought their contract up current with hourly, and then I had an additional budget to continue to authorize them to do things, cause it just comes up of, hey, we need you to make this change, or we need to make this change. And so this is doing the same thing, catching them up. One of the changes that we're capturing is the schedule change on Central. So as we went through and adjusted the schedule on Central over the last year, we've never adjusted Miller Hall's contract, waiting to see when will construction be done. And we know with confidence that that's at the end of the year in December. And so we updated their contract. It's really them and Steel Architects are two of the primaries on that. And so that was a part of this, is to extend their construction administration to cover that time period. Couple of the other things that are in here in some numbers is we increased the number of site visits that we wanted from our envelope consultant, who does all of our waterproofing and roofing and windows. Just as we've been working on the Central Library, realizing its level of complexity, and it was a small amount to have extra quality control inspections by them to engage with Kirby and the subs to really be out there and double checking. It does help to make sure that, hey, they're getting it built correctly, because it's all the trickle down to the tradesman who's actually putting them together. And so we increased some site visits there. We increased some site visits for our landscape architect to do more as well, working with the team and being on site more frequently. So those are all built into the schedule extension and additional site visits component to this. Overall, we're increasing the authorization level, I think, a little over 200,000. And that picks that up, and it does carry forward 100,000 for additional ongoing design services that weren't ready to close out, but are either we're authorizing and asking them to proceed, or I'm expecting to do that. So that's the request on this. These are all factored into the current budget. Most of them, when we did the budget adjustment back in February, captured it within our architectural fees, within the soft cost plan for these, and anticipated. The one big change was, which isn't in there, is what we talked about for downtown Bend and schedule change, because that is a large number. So
this 18 million comes from contingency?
no, so it's built into all the line project budgets. It's in the soft cost section. And for the most part, these dollars are in the line item within there. So it's not pulling out of contingency, but it's built into the soft cost budget. The authorization is to actually execute contract change orders with Miller Hall. The 18 million was their original contract plus all the adjustments that we've done to date since beginning. So this is actually an increase of, I think, 289,000. 238,000, excuse me.
One more, just out of curiosity. What is high density storage system?
And so that's it's in Central Library. It's gonna be in a storage room, and it's a storage shelving system that can put primarily all books.
It contracts and expands. If you've ever been to like a university library and you go up, like, especially in their periodicals in the magazine room, you can like push a button and it will move them open. In the olden days, before that, some of the olden, like the university where I worked at, you cranked it and it was on a wheel system. So I know Ann's shaking her head, she's seen it too.
It's in the library during college when we worked.
Yeah, it's just
the crank.
yeah. To put a bunch of shelves together from like our Some of the library books are outreach, the free giveaways, we're putting the materials there that we don't need them to be displayed, that there are giveaway things. And we need those books to be kind of closer together, and then we'll have them labeled on the outside, and yes.
Density as in. The
Small
density
space,
of
lots of stuff.
density of substance.
Yes.
So thinking smushing some.
It's off the rail system, so.
It's district up and down, so we call it Big Ben.
Oh, my.
Well,
Never seen them.
Yeah, it used to go-
That would be cool.
there's lots of people, zombie.
and I had a question about what's best.
So this is the battery storage system and then,
Okay,
so the power that comes out of our PV
Right.
system goes into the BESS. It's the battery storage system.
Okay.
So it acts as a emergency power that's like juice from the PV. The PV can run everything, but it also charges the batteries and keeps them charged. And the BESS is then dedicated for the computer system, for the NOC. Right?
Oh,
Ever
okay.
heard him talk about the NOC?
yeah, right,
And that's Mark Hovey's.
deal, yes.
And it's so that it has an extended time, if there's a long power outage, that system can still be with backup power.
Yeah, so it's like a generator.
It's
kind
like a
of-
generator with,
Yeah. With
And
that
it's,
LG diesel.
you know, it caused a lot of consternation because the city, we went through plan check and they approved it, but they said, we want to see a deferred submittal. So then we turned in the deferred submittal and they said, wait a minute, this is really different than what we thought. Back through a lot of
Um,
proving out what it was, because all of a sudden, these are large batteries, and so, and then you got it all worried about explosion, which is a true possibility with batteries, and the fire and how it was set up and the ratings, and they reassessed a whole number of components. And we had to work through the documentation, and so that's what that was.
Okay,
And we ended up having to have our engineer sign off on more plans from the manufacturer of the BESS
okay,
in order to appease, and get the city comfortable that it was safe and doable. And it's new technology, right? So we have a lot of new technology and it catches them off guard. They see it in the field and our building inspector sees things that he's never seen before, and it's like, there must be something wrong with this.
right. It's like, well, I have,
Sometimes we win and sometimes we don't.
yeah. Hard when you've got innovative
Yeah.
architects and.
There are not, as you can imagine, not many buildings in Central Oregon that produce enough power
To
to
power
be able to store it.
themselves.
Yeah,
Right,
yes.
yeah, no, I mean.
Our assistant fire marshal mentioned this. So briefly, because I haven't seen this before.
Well, and it's just like people saying, I've never seen electric cars before, but you know, when something is new, it doesn't mean that it doesn't work, it just means it's new.
And it's like what we talked about earlier with the shelving. Access force, raised access, have been built for a long time, but not a lot of them here. And Redmond had one view of what was necessary,
Uh-huh,
and City of Bend has a different view of the dimension of for service underneath that floor. Because they're all used to things being up here in the ceiling. There's no shelves in the way of getting at that unit up there to work on it.
right,
So,
right. Well, this is slow sometimes. Hey, any other questions for Greg on this one? Anyone want to make the motion?
Move to provide the library director signing authority for Miller Hall's contract and change order total not to exceed $18,719,000.
And
Second, okay, any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. That is unanimous. Redmond Early Learning.
Yeah, so this one is, it resulted in needing to do some work on the play structure up there. One was the top, keep the kids from climbing up there, and then expanding some graphics that, the district wanted to put on the play structure. And, so we were just at the limit, this was gonna push it up over the prior authorization level by about 10,000. I added 25,000 on there in case there's things that come up and we wanna have bigger plant viewing thing that, Tom would have that authorization level to let us do minor changes should they come up. So that's the increase from the prior level of 700,000 up to 735.
So Greg, it's included for future modifications or repairs needed. I think full board meetings ago, I mentioned that one of the figure plant things, the paint had already started to wear off. Would this then, that repair come under this or?
For the figure plant stuff, they are actually, because they come up with their finishes, have, dealt a lot on their own on.
Okay,
This generally is when we want to make a change, or they built it the way we want it, but it's not
okay,
functioning right. And we ask them to, hey, build us another thing, or can we modify this and do this?
okay.
There's a kind of a fine line there, okay, is this a warranty issue?
Yeah,
Right.
okay.
That they have to adhere to and take care of, and I will say, most of our vendors do take care of their warranty issues. But sometimes we find, okay, it's not really, they built it exactly the way we bought it, whatever our spec was.
Right.
And it's not they didn't do anything wrong. Like when we talked about the stain on the wood,
Yeah.
that was more, we tried a process and that process wasn't durability.
Okay.
So, generally, this is gonna be if we want to make that change.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you like to make the motion?
I move to provide the library director signing authority up to $735,000 for the Redmond Library early learning components.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Passes unanimously. And the library shelving systems.
Yes. So this is, back to what we talked about, the high density storage. Yes. When we did the authorization level for the total shelving system, we had included about a $90,000 additional scope of work, but this was going to exceed that. And we still have, to me, those dollars are for small changes if we need them as we go through. So I wanted to bring this to the board because it's a large expenditure and increase to the overall. And so this is for the purchase of and the installation of that high density storage system.
That actually doubled the cost, I guess, that's in the scope. It was 2,660,000 and.
I just said that correctly,
I was gonna say,
because this also captured, the changes that we talked about that we had to do for, it's the high density, it's the changes to the shapes of the, storage as well as the finish on it. So it's all of those. Sorry. Misstated, I put it all into this one.
so it's an increase from 2,750,000 to 3,186,000.
Yes. And that was when we talked about the budget and it went up 186,000, it's capturing all of those costs. I'm sorry. Got it.
Any questions? Okay, Ann?
I move to provide the library director signing authority up to $3,186,000 for the central library shelving systems contract and change orders.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. This one passes unanimously.
The next one is, for art consultants. So, we have our art committee. And one of the members of the committee is a consultant. We have a couple of them. Cate is the kind of the lead, works with Chantal and sourcing all of the opportunities for art and artists and putting out basically like RFPs or calls for art to respond to all of the locations. When we started working with her, it was a contract that was well within Todd's authorization level, as well as a couple of amendments. She's on an annual contract that we can renew or not renew as we see, depending on how quickly we go through the process. As her contract came up, I realized, okay, we're gonna exceed Todd's signing authority and wanted to bring it to you guys, one for authorization to exceed that level. And just give you a summary of where we were at on the project with her, so. Then I attached a prior change order that we had done with her, just to kind of let you see the original contract and two amendments that we did that led up to where, okay, hey, we're reaching, as the, schedule extended, that means spending time, but Cate, I think, is a valuable resource for the district and really interfacing with all of the great artists and sculptors that are being utilized, so. Questions?
But I'm very pleased with that.
Yeah, the art's beautiful.
And this all fits in the budget. I budget for all these things. It just wanted to make sure that we didn't miss a step on authorization.
Right.
Would this be the last change order for the art? Or would we have one more?
I would say there's, I'm gonna be one more coming next year. She'll continue through downtown Bend.
Seven, yeah. We've been able to add more art than we thought we were able to, and so it's complicated. You have to go through a process for each individual artist, so.
And we're able to save the existing art in downtown, like the window
Yes.
and the, yeah, I see that was.
Installation.
Yeah, right.
The sculpture out front.
Outside the fish, yeah.
And honors.
Any other questions? We're waiting for a motion.
All right, I move to provide the library director signing for Cate O'Hagan's contract and change order total not to exceed $185,750.
I'll second.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Did you vote? Betsy?
Oh, I think I did. I meant to.
Okay.
I've been doing a lot of stuff in my head.
You looked like you were lost in thought there. Okay,
And I'm at the end,
huh?
and that's the end.
Way to cover. That was a lot. Well, we didn't have so much last time, so, yeah, I think you saved it for us this time. Right in the midst of things, so I can see it. Okay, now we have our monitoring report, our emergency library director succession plan.
Yes, which I seem to have lost.
Yeah, we didn't have it in the packet.
Oh, it wasn't in the packet?
No. Oh, yeah, it wasn't in the packet.
The motions was in no. The emergency.
Right,
Just testing you guys.
yeah. I think I could practically recite this one, but I know what it says.
Okay, well, just to remind you, this is a limitation that the board put in place, to make sure that basically if I win the lottery and disappear tomorrow, you're in good shape. And the good news is, this is very similar to last year, because this is a pretty easy report for us. We have 2 assistant directors, Lynn and Chantal. There are a couple of things it says in your pieces, you wanted to make sure that they're involved in finance and HR. They're definitely involved in that. You've seen them participating with all of our board work and our work sessions. They're deeply involved in the budget, and we, the 3 of us have a weekly meeting with Jennifer Palmer, HR director, to go over all issues for the district so that we're all aware of what's going on. My interpretation is that we're in compliance with this, but I welcome Lynn or Chantal if you have anything to add to this. I greatly simplify the work they do, because they're very, very much involved in what's going on. Just something.
Involvement with the union. Too.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, right. I like your lottery analogy, we're getting hit by the bus.
Yeah.
Yes. It's superior.
I used to use that because we didn't have buses in Central Oregon, and then I said that one day and a giant bus went by. I'm like, oh, we have buses.
Oh, yeah. So, anybody have any questions? Need a motion on this week?
I move that the Deschutes Public Library District is in compliance with policy 3-J, emergency library director succession.
I'll second.
All those in favor? All right. Well, motion passes unanimously. We're on a roll. Okay, we actually have some things for the end of the meeting since we powered through this agenda so quickly. First of all, we would like to thank
Let's see.
okay,
There you go.
Buddy, and
What's that?
yeah. Watching my feet. Thank you for your service to the library of the Duke County and for all of your hard work carrying your terms. We appreciate you a lot. And we know we will see you at library openings in the future.
Say, you do get invited.
Yeah. Yes, you do. Yes, you do, so. Yeah, it's been a pleasure to serve with you.
It has, it's been my pleasure. It comes with a kind of bittersweet, yeah, I'm sorry to leave. I think it was a wise decision, so.
It's been a real honor. You know, we've worked through some challenges and some great opportunities still to come. You know, we've been focused on the bond and we've got some great things going on. But I know there'll be more opportunities in the future for the library to focus on. So, yeah.
Well, thank you
It's
very
been an
much.
honor. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. This is probably been the most challenging 4 years for any board member.
Yeah,
Just because we have done so much in 4 years. I know in the previous 20-something years, we had challenges, but usually it was resolved in 1 or 2 months. It wasn't every month we had something major like today, just throwing things at you. So thank you, because I'm so happy that one, you were there for that part, but also that you've gotten to see the results of
right,
some of your decisions.
yeah,
Well, the challenging part was you guys moving and stepping up to doing what you've done. I walk into these libraries and, oh my gosh, you're the ones that did it.
Right.
It wasn't like you called in some special company to do it for you. You did it. And there was so much physical labor in that, so I respect.
Yeah, I think we've kind of dealt with the high level stuff and all the detailed planning on every single component and fixture and
Yeah.
graphic and floor covering and ceiling tile. I mean, that's a ton of choices. Anybody that's ever built a house knows how much work it is, and this is way more complicated. Yeah, so, yeah, the staff really deserves kudos for how these buildings have turned out, for sure. Okay, so we are gonna have two new board members coming on board, as they say, and so that means we have to do orientations with them, or we get to do orientations with them.
I'm handing out the table of contents of your orientation binders.
Right. And so, in the past,
Tomorrow,
Sure.
binders.
Yeah, we're creating a new one for her, but yeah. Bring it to Zoe and we can recycle.
Okay.
Yeah.
yeah, so, I mean, typically, we've just taken a chunk out of this, and if you have, I guess what I would say is if you have a strong preference for which part you would like to orient the person on, let Todd know that. And my idea would be just to let him divvy it up. And then also let him know when you would be available in the next, what will we say, month or so? 2
Yeah,
months
well,
or so?
we'll take what time we have because we don't know who the other board members. So the goal would be for the three of you to split this up and maybe you cover about, well, I already figured it out. It's about 7.5 of these. And really, it's been pretty easy in the past where we usually just say, you're gonna meet with Betsy and we're gonna go over sections 1 through 7. And really, it's just it's not like we sit there and lecture, they read them in advance and we just are there to answer questions. And it's a good way to connect with board members so that eventually they're meeting with each one of you and start creating that.
Is this the first time you've done something like this?
No, we probably did it with all of you. It's really heavy.
Yeah, right. Oops. There's a lot going on, maybe you guys can't.
I read the whole so now.
Yeah, exactly. Big part of this is just to let the new people get exposed to us in a
Yeah, I like that.
non-meeting setting so that they feel more comfortable asking questions or raising their hand or coming over to us.
I think
During the
people
meeting,
should
say, what are
really
you talking
opportunity.
Now, I remember meeting with Martha, so and I thought it was very. She went over the rules, what's the book?
The governance.
Yes, farmers.
Yes.
And we are planning to maybe bring her back in the fall to do the results policy prioritization. But she recently broke her hip.
Ooh,
So, I don't know what.
that's the bad thing.
I haven't talked to her yet, so I was gonna give it a little bit of time before I call them, see what.
Spending time. To come forward, so that was really,
Yeah,
yeah, just to kind of have a general overall
Yeah.
conversation.
I remember
And
that the Congress was gonna be so boring and it's interesting.
right, no, it does take some orientation, it does take some explaining because. And it's the part that we tend to just zoom by because now we get it, for the most part, and it's a lot when you're brand new. So I would be happy to do the Carver chunk because I feel like I've been working with it for so long, I feel like I could explain.
Great. And basically, if you don't have preferences, I'm just gonna randomly
Yeah,
pick a chunk.
Well, give me budgets. I love talking about that.
I know, I was gonna say, you budget and
Give
state
the
budget
financial-
rules.
I like those.
Which number is budget?
That is.
16, 17, 18, the audit,
Okay.
special district,
Special district.
yeah.
16, 17.
Do not give me 13,
Take that one, I'll take
the
it.
least comfortable with that, but anything else, it's fine.
Yeah. So you can just divide them up however you want. But yeah, let Todd and Lori know when you're available.
No.
No, that was a different
No, that's the next one.
Okay.
What I am, it's something we talked about at our last work session. We wanted to talk about what are the futures of the library and including looking at,
That
What?
1 acre.
yeah, what are we doing with the land we have? What are our options there? And then what possible services could we do? So I've been working on, scheduling, with Jan McGowan, who we worked with in January, to kind of facilitate that discussion for us. And so those are the dates we just gave you in August and September. And then, and we also sent that out to our 2 incoming board members. And then the other one I added to that was in August, we have our in-service day. It's not mandatory attendance, but if you are available, I think it'd be very interesting because we're going to be talking with the staff about what's the future of the library. And thought it'd be a good chance rather than them discussing it and me bringing a report to you, you just hearing the ideas, enthusiasm right there. So that's coming up. It will be probably about a 2-hour chunk of that day. We're just not sure when in the day. So. Yeah.
Do those always happen downtown?
No, that one's gonna be at the Redmond
Redmond.
Library.
Okay, yay.
I know
that.
And actually, they don't happen downtown. We don't have a room in Bend big enough to get our staff into the room.
Yeah.
Which caused real challenges when we did it in Bend because we would have to split the staff up and have somebody do a presentation, sometimes 3 presentations in a row to get them all together. And by the end, they were exhausted. So it's been really nice having Redmond. And we're looking forward to Central too, for some options there. Other library news, just I talked last time about that I would be starting workplace culture meetings, and that's one where I'm either meeting one-on-one or in small groups with all staff. Those are continuing, they'll continue into July. But already I've probably met with a third of the staff. And it's been very positive. It's, I think we're getting really good discussion, a big piece that's coming up, especially, and I talked about it last time, but we've been thrown so much into the building thing, that's kind of, we've lost some of that personal touch with staff, and that's definitely showing. So this is, just doing this is a good start with that, but I think that's a lot of the work we have to do, especially getting ready for those new buildings, making sure that we're really building our connections. Also, I am just setting up work sessions to work with a representative group of our staff to actually talk about our customer service model and what it means when you walk in the building, what kind of point of service are you looking at. And so we'll be setting those up probably in July or the beginning of August, depending on, the hardest part is scheduling to get 15 people from across the district all in the same. Oh, and don't forget, you probably noticed, if you've seen staff lately, they all have their summer with the library shirts on, and we're right in the middle of that. We had, for the last few years, we've had a kickoff event for this, and it's been in, Alpenglow Park in Southeast Bend. And this year, we had over 700 people attend that kickoff.
Wow.
It's really, I think the first year we had a couple hundred So it's really taking off there. So, yeah, we're deep into summer reading right now.
It's cool. That's a great.
That's my library.
Okay. Do you have any foundation?
Chantal can give us an update, but I wanted to, share, because I don't know if I worked on thinking about this. Yeah. But, as you know, Michelle, who is on the foundation board, will be. And so, in the similar fashion of what Ann did, I will be retiring from the foundation board because Michelle has been spending so much time with the campaign and all of that stuff. She'll take the board's representative seat now, and so, that's that, very exciting. And I missed last month, unfortunately, I can't remember what happened, so Chantal will give us an intro.
So, let's see, last month, we had our, budget overview, and we've taken a lot of time to really look at how we pull together the budget and how we monitor the bookkeeping. It's important because we're now getting budgets from the capital campaign. And so it's kind of like we've had to redo all the bookkeeping that we've normally done in the past. Michelle Anderson is our current treasurer, and she has been a real gift to us. She's a brilliant CPA, now realtor. But so she really understood how it would be best to set up that bookkeeping system. We've hired a new bookkeeper who's used to doing this kind of work as well. So we're in really good shape. So we feel a lot more comfortable with that. So lots of discussion on the budget and on the new bookkeeping system. And then we had our last author event with Lily Block. And that was at the Tower Theater. And it was, I got a sweet night. I know Bunny was there. Who else was there?
I couldn't, I had tickets and I didn't
Yeah.
end up going, but
Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
I really wanted to.
It was really good.
Yeah.
It thoroughly enjoyed.
Yeah, he's very entertaining. So that concludes author for this year. So now we're just looking forward to kicking off our new fiscal year with a new treasurer who will replace Michelle. He's brand new to the foundation board, but very smart when it comes to money and things like that. So, okay.
All right, thank you very much. Well, we are to the self-review of meetings section. So Bunny, since this is your final review, would you like to start off?
Well, I thought it was a very good meeting. Thank you, just went through that and it's going to take 2 hours. So very clear and understanding. So appreciate that. And I appreciate all of you. Thank you for what you do and you guys too. So I'll be good. You haven't gotten rid of me. But it's good meeting.
We're counting on that. And Ann?
Good meeting, and Greg, I just really appreciate your organization. Things out, because it's very easy to follow that process, and just your explanation of budget and, expenditures and contingency. You really helped me make sense of all that, so I appreciate that. And I want to say too, I just really appreciated the professionalism and the enthusiasm and dedication of all of the staff. It's just really evident in our programs and just the way the public interfaces with our libraries. So it's been a real pleasure. Thank you.
Betsy?
Ditto, good meeting. I wanted to add that I stopped in at the garden fair in Redmond. Maybe a weekend or two ago. And it was cool to see the community room in use, and looking forward to next year with the other half full of vendors and that sort of thing. But there were a ton of people there and it was a lot of fun, and that's what I wanted to report on today.
All right. Yeah.
I also think it was a good meeting. I want to thank the budget committee for all the work they did, and just really looking forward to having a solid budget for next year. I want to thank Anne and Bunny for all of your hard work and for your warm welcome and orientation that you provided to me over this last little over a year. Thank you for all the work that you provided to the library. Looking forward to having our new members join us next month.
I don't have anything left to say. No, it was it is always rewarding to see us moving through the construction process seamlessly, and so I give the staff and Greg and Kirby and all the people that are working on these projects lots of credit for keeping us on track and on budget, as was said, thank you for your clear explanations, because as I read through these in advance of the meetings, a lot of times I'll have questions, and by the time I get to the bottom of the page, the question's answered, so. And thank you both for your service, and I know I'm counting on the fact that you will continue to be at our events, and we will see you, and thank you for all your hard work. So, Todd?
I'd like to echo everything, and just especially again, thank you for not just your service to our library, but to our entire community. It's all of you. It's a I mean, to tell you, it's a volunteer position, and we're asking for a lot of work right now, and just thank you for taking care of our libraries. We're so happy and proud of what we've been able to do, and you've made it happen, so thank you.
All right. Well, with that, I'll adjourn the meeting. Pretty well. I know, well, that was a lot.
Before the rodeo let out.
Yeah, exactly. The radio people should be in there. Like, starts about things, doesn't it?
They started at 4:30.
6:30.
Oh, okay, well.
Just finish your home.
Maybe that's for tomorrow.
Yeah. I'm really.
Yeah.
I was looking, people turning in and looking at the road. Yeah. I haven't seen that.
Once when I first moved here and then.
Yeah, I hear.